1 year ago, I co-founded an independent wiki for the Kamen Rider franchise called the Henshindex with sunnygolucky. We partnered with Waddles 3121 and her indie Power Rangers and Sentai wiki, the RangerDex, which was founded around the same time. With the help of our amazing editors, a ton of progress has been made in filling out those wikis, but the scope of the project still daunts us. Despite that, we've persevered because we know why we're doing this, why we decided to take up these impossible tasks. It's because the fandom wikis effing suck. Let me get this out of the way. By far the largest reason why the fandom wikis need an alternative is because of fandom, and we all know why. Money-making design choice, copious amount of ads, and overall corporate BS mean that any wiki on it will be inherently more geared towards profits than providing accurate information, and I'm sure the vast majority of people who choose to create wikis there don't intend that. I've literally been told directly by an admin of the Tokopedia system of wikis, which include the Fandom Rider and Ranger wikis, that even they don't have a high opinion of their interactions with the company's staff. And I totally get it. I mean, I grew up with fandom wikis, and I've been on the receiving end of many ridiculous decisions made by the company. I was using a wiki there as my main social platform during the Gamepedia merge that completely transformed the website and replaced the features that I loved most with an overly sleek appearance, unintuitive features, and significantly more advertising. I know how crappy Fandom the Corporation can be and how much it impacts the wikis under it, at least to some degree. And what I know is enough for me to be sure that it shouldn't own the wikis for these franchises. Which brings me to the first thing the Henshindex and RangerDex are improving on from their fandom wikis. We're not on fandom. I have asked Tokopedia if they wanted to move, and they have answered with a hard no. The reasoning they gave still doesn't quite make sense to me. I'd be happy to assist them if they ever did change their mind, provided that would be followed by some changes to management and formatting that I'll go over soon, but that's not happening for the foreseeable future. The Henshindex is being hosted by Telepedia, a smaller service geared towards being a good alternative to fandom without corporate interference. It does run some ads, but they don't hinder site performance. And the RangerDex is hosted on Miraheze, if that's how you pronounce it, which is a non-profit wiki host. Aside from hosts, though, there are a lot of other things that we're trying to do better than the Fandom Rider and Ranger wikis. And a lot of them are pretty disliked by users of the wiki, and a big focus of ours is to avoid those issues. And where better to start than... We actually have content guidelines, and wow, I'm incredibly glad I came up with the translation section and made it as detailed as I did. Machine translation, first of all, is not allowed. I've seen so many mistakes made by them and put on wikis, even the Henshindex before I added that guideline. It's so easy to create misinformation if you take it as gospel. Like, here's an example. A GAF production blog containing the name of a fictional basketball team called GAs, which is a pun, was Google translated to The AIDS, and I had to rush out to put out a translation for that one to clear that confusion up. As a fan base that relies almost exclusively on fan translations, it's paramount that those translations are of high quality. I'm sure you can think of weird choices made by fan subbers or nonsensical machine translations. That's why I've focused so hard on making standardized guidelines for translation and romanization. I want to ensure that we have accurate information because even the most benign error made by Google Translate or DeepL can completely shift perceptions. We have plenty of amazing translators too. The romanization guidelines come especially in handy every time a new one joins, because it gives me something to point to for why we have to spell it is and not Izu, or that, hey, please don't write the surname first if you're responding to a translation request because we don't format out like that and the person you're replying to might not know it's a surname. Banning machine translation might make you worried about the lack of people available to translate the material, but we have a ton of people who are willing and able and an easy process for request. Yeah, it's just a designated channel in our Discord server, but it works! I should also mention the other weird inconsistencies that our editors and I have noticed. Song lyrics and quotations are often missing the original Japanese text and opt to instead only include the romanization and translation, or only just the translation. Also, many translations of quotes or lyrics are directly from fan subs or fan translations, which is fine if those quotes credited the translators, which they usually don't. Yes, fan subs are kind of in a nebulous legality, silently permitted at best, but when you have a whole section listing all of the groups and discussing the necessity of fan translations on the style guide page, I think you're fine with properly crediting them. If you go on a characters page on the Rider fandom wiki, you'll see one of two things. Either nothing, or a bunch of statistics and descriptions of the character's power set. We'll put a pin in that first one for now, but as for the power sets, yeah, they tend to take up a majority of a given writer character's page, and not all of them are accurate. My favorite ability listing is Masashi Sudo, Kamen Rider Scissors, being labeled a Master Manipulator. I haven't seen Ryuki, but apparently this is horribly inaccurate, so if you have, tell me, I guess. And these lists can be so long, and for what? Why are they putting all this effort into making lists of abilities? Power scaling. The Fandom Rider wiki has power scaling. This video puts it better than I could, but the gist of it is that power scaling often exists in opposition to thorough understanding of the actual characters being power scaled and the stories they inhabit. And it is much less objective than it would appear on a surface level because stories are not normally written around a rigid system of who is more powerful all the time rather than, well, telling an interesting story. So why is the writer fandom wiki filled with this stuff? I couldn't tell you. But I don't think it should be prioritized over, listing suit actors in the info box. There are also whole sections for writer forums, which, yes, they're very fancy and stylized, though a little unintuitive, and oh god, they don't have a template, they just copy the code, but it's very nice. But why are they in the middle of character pages? And all of these stats are pulled from TV Asahi's website, at least they're usually cited, but guys, if there's anything Gav taught us about these stats, it's that they should not be taken seriously. Then there's the whole question of why all this writer information is listed on the character's page in the first place. Sure, it makes sense at first, but when you get to the writers with multiple different users, you have to wonder if it's worth maintaining the exact same thing on every character's page. So we circumvent that by having separate pages for the writers. Power scaling containment zones, as I call them. Hey viewers, raise your hand if you've ever been spoiled on a major plot point when looking for something completely separate on the Fandom Rider wiki. Okay, I'm going to be fully honest and say that I'm not entirely in favor of hiding every spoiler all the time, but oh my god, why did I get spoiled on a major character death in the search results while looking for one of those little message box templates you see at tops of pages that warn you about content warnings or say it's a stub or something? That's another thing entirely. So, now, thanks to my incident, we have detailed guidelines on what qualifies as a spoiler and how to deal with them. These make it so that you won't be spoiled on anything until you've scrolled down and you know what you'll be spoiled on by doing so. I don't know if it's perfect or if it ever will be because spoilers are just subjective by nature, but it's much better than nothing. I've been told of certain biases that are prevalent in the fandom wikis. Not seen much of it myself, probably because I avoid looking at them in general, but many people have told me that male-dominant and heteronormative biases are very present in their articles. I've seen these two screenshots. Rita Kaniska is the first quote-unquote gender-neutral Sentai warrior, and queer coding and /ships will not be mentioned. These are just barely acceptable to me because it's not always a wiki just job to look at subtext. Both queer coding and Rita's being non-binary require you to read between the lines, which as a wiki admin you may not want to encourage because it can cause a slippery slope effect of people saying things that are just not evident whatsoever. But Hotaru and Raine being love interests while Sento and Banjo are brothers? Yeah, no. This could be written off as a one-time incident, but I'm extremely familiar with patterns of queer relationships being held to higher standards for canonicity than straight ships. Through that lens, the rule against discussing queer coding becomes a lot more harmful. There's also the infamous Ranger Wiki Twitter poll from 5 years ago asking if two men who kissed are gay. Low blow? Maybe, but it's a perfect example of this bias being present. Many Henshindex members have also complained about the overlooking of female characters on the Fandom Rider Wiki. According to them, the pages for female characters are less likely to be completed or filled out. Is this true? Let's find out together. Alright, I've got a wheel of rider shows and stuff, and what do we get? It's Den-O. So, the characters from Den-O that I picked, Hana and Momotaro's, did have a drastic imbalance in article size, Momo's is almost 24 times the size of Hana's, but not much in quality. Their personality and main show bio sections were about equal in size, besides Momotaro's catchphrases being quoted in the former. The difference mainly came from Momo having way more post-show appearances than Hana, though wait, Hana does appear in some directly related spin-offs. Her article doesn't mention those at all. I only realized that as I was writing this. Well, regardless, that comparison was more indicative of bias on the side of the showrunners than anyone else, so let's just spin the wheel again and see what happens. Seems like it's going to land on Showa season. Oh my god, you're kidding. I'm doing voiceovers for these recordings in post, but it should be known that I did sit here in shock for a couple of seconds. If you don't know why I reacted this way, Kamen Rider Stronger features the first female Henshin hero and debatably the first female Kamen Rider in the franchise, Electrowave Human Tackle. Tackle, or Yuriko Misaki, is Stronger's partner in crime fighting until about 2/3 of the way through the show where she gets fridged. Her and her legacy are definitely things I'd like to dive into in a later video after I actually watch Stronger. Basically, she's left her mark on quite a few later installments. With that in mind, let's check out her and her partner's pages. By the way, what are these even on her on the homepage? It's really weird. Okay, here's Tackle's page. So no personality description, an extremely unpolished single paragraph for the bio of a main character who lasted for 30 episodes, only touching on her introduction and death. Denpa Ningen has been translated to Electronic Wave Humanoid instead of Electrowave Human, which, like, that isn't long enough already. An editor has gone out of their way to make a section for homages to her, only to just include someone from a Kabuto stage show. And, okay, apparently Tackle shows up in O's to Know All Writers, Let's Go Kamen Riders according to the bottom of the page, but there's no description of that anywhere else. Her other appearances in spin-off media have extremely brief descriptions. The only citations here are Tackle's page on an official Kamen Rider database, not for her character, just for the hero, and a fan blog post from 2012. Again, this is a character who's made a great impact on the Kamen Rider franchise, arguably even more than Kamen Rider Stronger himself, and her page doesn't have much of anything to show for that. Well, maybe that's just because it's a Showa season, and Showa seasons get less attention on the wiki. Okay then, let's take a look at Shigeru Joe. Okay, Yuriko is mentioned in the abstract paragraph like he is in hers, point given. What about the biography? That's definitely different from Tackle's. Way more polished and thorough. Also, Toby Takashibana's name is spelled entirely different? Wow, okay, those are very detailed descriptions of his involvement in later Showa seasons. Jesus, he must have done a lot in Sky Rider and Black RX. But Tackle wasn't in those, so it doesn't count. Oh, wait, okay, these are a lot of post-canon appearances that he shared with her and gets a lot more written for. He gets all this in his personality section? And a power scaling section? And I'm not even sure if I scrolled down to see this in the video, but he has actual proper citations. What the hell? Yeah, I think you can see the problem by now. From both Hana and Tackle's pages, I could tell there was a stark difference in dedication to upkeeping their pages compared to their male counterparts. This kind of bias isn't easy to erase, but we're pretty committed to dealing with these issues. In fact, a lot of us are queer or female, including Sunny, Kylie, and I. We want to make sure that we're not overlooking these aspects of the series because we know better than anyone the harm that can come from it. While I was checking the Fandom Rider wiki with an ad blocker on to research for this video, I was surprised to find a note on the homepage that said they were going through serious repair. Checking the edit history, that paragraph has been around much longer than Henshindex, years in fact, but that kind of speaks to the vibe I've been getting from my limited interaction with Tokopedia. It's not that they're not aware of their faults, there's a lack of something else. Saying driver effort feels too mean. I think it's more like they're too stagnant. Progress isn't being made. They want editors and fixes to the things that need fixing, but direct action isn't being taken. Hell, they haven't even finished their style guide. I can't really blame all of this on the wiki staff. On surface level, sure, they don't seem like they care, but no wonder they don't, when a lot of them have been around for years and probably lost interest by now, and not many people want to contribute to a fandom wiki. Change is difficult, especially when there's hardly anyone backing you up. You might be wondering too why we didn't just try to help the fandom wikis instead of starting from scratch, but here's the thing. We knew how difficult this would be, and we still chose to take this path because we knew that's what needed to happen. I'm not a staff member for a Tokupedia wiki. I've never even edited any of them. I can't move them to another site or convince the admins to do so. But what I can do is try to learn from them to create something new that's better than the original. That's what we're working towards. Alright, I really want to show now what we've done since the previous wiki video. In the last 3 months, we've doubled the number of pages, more than doubled the number of edits, and, well, that user count is obviously inaccurate. Telepedia is having some technical issues while I'm recording this. I wish we had 3,000. These new members include translators, people with physical materials, and many other individuals who've contributed in great ways since they've joined. I'm extremely grateful to all of them. Their contributions include full character lists taken from multiple sources, scans and scanlations, focuses on song and staff members, plot summaries for entire movies, and finding every single unique core ID for non-appearing writers and geeks. My most recent project has been making a page for common filming locations in Rider. It started off with the 2019 article by Tom Constantine, which is still the most cited source on the page by a long shot, but then grew and grew and grew, and now as of writing it's twice the length of the second longest page on the wiki. I put so much work into this. And you know what happened 10 days in? I found the fucking Toei warehouse. I wasn't even looking for it. It's an abandoned factory in the Yoshii district of Takasaki, Gunma. I don't know of any other English speaker having found it, even Tom didn't have it on his article. So I was possibly the first English record of the Toei warehouse's location, and then I put a shot from the Kyoryuger opening there in W Place. A page for filming locations based on Tom's article was something I'd wanted to do for a really long time, and I'm so glad I did so. I've also gotten help from several editors and even members of Thomas Ujubi's Discord server too. Those guys sent me down a rabbit hole that I still haven't processed. Turns out there are a lot of warehouses in Kamen Rider. A user named Snowfruit joined pretty quickly after the first promo video was posted, and after making several edits and using discussion pages to my surprise, they asked on Discord to make a page for image guidelines. At first I wasn't sure, but then they sent me what they had so far and I was genuinely floored by the quality and level of detail. On another note, if all goes well and I keep my homework at bay, this video should be releasing on September 14th, 2025, the 1-year anniversary of the Henshindex creation. We've been able to create amazing things in that 1 year, and I'm looking forward to seeing many more of them in the future. Thank you all for watching.